next, like, basically 2 weeks until you start Big 12 play, what are they going to be like for you? With, obviously you got 2 games at home, you're not going anywhere. How important are they for this team?
Really important. This team needs to keep getting better. The thing I'm encouraged about the last 48 hours or so, I haven't seen anybody walking around feeling sorry for themselves. And that's the thing you get concerned about when you're struggling a little bit with a young team that, they're looking for someone to tell them everything's going to be okay. Well, no, we've got to make things better by playing better. And so we get the opportunity now to really practice, not traveling for a while, and really get in a little bit of a rhythm on the improvement side.
So what's the key for you guys in figuring it out offensively?
Playing with a little bit more freedom. I think guys are overthinking it offensively. We watched a lot of film. We haven't had great spacing. And obviously when you go 2 for 15 from 3, when that's a primary part of your offense like we did the other day, it makes it hard. Because right now we haven't established an inside game where we can just say, all right, we're just going to have to win this game in the paint today. And so we've got to continue to find ways maybe to get better opportunities from 3 until we can continue to develop those other guys inside.
What do you think it was about the three-point shooting during that game? Do you think it was more of Nebraska's defense or just something about OSU's offense? What do you think happened there?
Obviously, it was some combination of the two. I would certainly give them credit. They're a really good defensive team. And again, if you look at numbers, if those things matter to you, the numbers say they're one of the elite defensive teams in the country in every statistical category except for defensive rebounding, which we thought we could take advantage of. And we got our fair share. We just didn't convert. But they're a really good defensive team, and obviously we had some looks that were pretty good ones that didn't go in, and that sometimes hurts you because you don't get a ton against a really good team. And so when you out of 10 possessions and you get 3 really good looks and you go 0 for 3 or 3 for 3, totally changes your mindset, makes the other guys feel better. But eventually we've got to be good enough that we can overcome some lulls, but we can't let them extend as long as they did on Sunday.
Cam said that this kind of stretch you guys are in right now reminded him a lot of his freshman year and your first year here as well, of that 0-6 stretch start conference play. Do you draw any similarities between the two times?
Again, it's hard for me to compare the two. I mean, in one sense, yes. Obviously, we were playing against really good competition and we were losing to really good teams, and we were in those games. We've been in most of these games. Sunday got away from us. Their run never ended. I mean, literally. I think the guy made a shot at the buzzer, one of their walk-ons made another shot as I was walking off the court. So, yeah, in some ways similar, but this team is so different. And we're so young, and they don't let the game necessarily affect their mood, which is good. They've been able to come into practice, have a good attitude, learn, continue to listen, and that'll give us a chance to figure it out as we go along.
These 4 losses coincided with a pretty tough stretch for Cam on the offensive end. Is that him working through being more of a focal point, or what do you think?
No, it's a pretty natural thing. It's kind of hard to quantify how hard that adjustment is. You go from being a guy who kind of can score without people noticing. I mean, you jump up at West Virginia, you get 20, and people are like, oh man, Cam Griffin, 20 in Morgantown. And then you expected to get 20. And the other team is trying to stop you from getting 20, and it's a totally different approach. But he's got to take pressure off himself offensively because he's not necessarily a guy that you just play iso ball with, right? He's a guy who gets it from spacing, from getting to the offensive glass, from getting to the free throw line. And it was a telltale sign to me that his mind wasn't in the right place when he's an 80% free throw shooter. He steps up there and misses 2. He's been one of the guys that this year we've been able to count on, if he got there, could at least get us a little bit more momentum in that regard. So, just kind of getting him back to a place where he's playing a little bit with less pressure on him to score and a little bit more just effort-based opportunities.
What's the next step for you as a head coach when you see a game like that and you come away saying his head isn't in the right place?
Just trying to help him. That's my job, is to figure it out, man. Whatever success we have, he's going to be a big part of it. And we can't have too many nights where he scores the first basket of the game and is gone the rest of the way that we're going to be able to win. So just maybe in the game, trying to help figure out a way to get him to the free throw line more, by maybe what we run offensively, and B, maybe taking them out, sitting them down. Problem is, it's really the only thing he didn't do well the other day. Still got 10 rebounds, 5 offensive, and so it's hard because you look down and I love those other guys. They're not ready to go help him yet. They're not, like we got to kind of help him figure it out through the game, and that's okay.
This early in the season, having these non-conference defenses kind of really target and zero in on him, what do you think that's going to do for him come Big 12 play when he has to face opponents doing the same thing?
I don't know. I mean, it's part of what we hope this whole schedule will do. Is just make us more prepared. So when we see different schemes defensively or bigger athletes, better defensive teams in general, that we can make the adjustments as the game goes along, and maybe find some easier baskets. And again, start eliminating the length of another team's runs and maybe extend ours a little bit better.
When do you hope to start seeing that flip from these being difficult non-conference games to that preparedness starting to show?
I don't know if I'm experienced enough to know when that happens exactly. Maybe that's where, not having been through it for 20 years, I don't really know. I do believe that we're getting better. I mean, I watch film and I can see individual guys doing things better. Yours continue to trend forward. He played really well the other day. I thought Lindy's been pretty consistent. He played well. It's just trying to find it on a night-to-night basis, more so than whether it's going to happen. We believe it's going to happen. It's just a matter of, do we know we're getting it every game? And right now we're not, and that's part of maturity. Understanding that the last game can't help you today, and on Friday, last Sunday's game will have no effect on it. And if you can understand that approach, you'll have more consistent performances from guys.
That game goes down as a neutral site game, but was that actually the toughest road atmosphere you guys have seen this year? On TV, it looked like it.
Yeah, it was great. It was a tremendous environment. I've said this. I don't know if I've said this publicly, but I've said it to multiple people. I mean, that's what basketball is supposed to be. I mean, college basketball is designed to play in a gymnasium, right? We've made it where you play in these arenas, and it's become less atmospheric than it should be. That was a tremendous basketball atmosphere. Now, in a few more years, if we go back there, I hope there are more people in orange than there are in the other color, but they've got tremendous fan support, and we're excited to be there. It was great preparedness for us. We're going to go to multiple venues here for the next 2 months that are similar, and our guys the other day, I think for the first 4 or 5 minutes, were looking around like, oh, this is Lincoln.
You mentioned Lindy's consistency. He kind of mentioned that he's been really trying to, you guys been pushing him to be more aggressive on offense and maybe not sit back as much. How hard is that for a player like him who's maybe kind of been a third or fourth option growing up, that now he may be the primary role on a night when Cam isn't scoring?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's similar. I mean, all of those guys, those two in particular, because of they've had more experience than Thomas, right? He's been around the same. They've played much more than Thomas has. But that transition is difficult from going to being a third, maybe even fourth option most nights, and jumping up and getting 18 unexpectedly to, hey, you may have to take 18 shots today, which isn't always easy to understand or to accept, because sometimes you feel like as a player, it's not necessarily what I do. Well, yeah, it's time. It's time for him and Cam to do that and take the share of the shots and be productive players for us on a night-to-night basis. So it's more of a mental transition, I think, than a physical one, because certainly they're both capable. They both had big scoring games. They just haven't been asked to do that every game for us. Jeff went through it a little bit last year. I wasn't here, the year before, but when we asked Leighton Hammonds to step up as a senior, as a player, I was never a scorer, but my senior year, I think I averaged 10 points a game. I averaged like 2 before that. And took more shots than I had 3 years prior to that combined. So I always try to relate back to my personal experience as a player and help these guys understand. I know what you're going through, and it's okay to not feel as comfortable, but you got to continue to work through it, and it'll become more natural as you do it.
You have